Hey guys, today I'm doing a video response to Glintzy. She did a video called The Ghost in My House, and she basically told us about some experiences she's been having with paranormal or supernatural or however you want to say it. But anyway, she asked if anyone else has had experiences or if you believe in the paranormal and why. She basically wants to know your story. So this is my story. I do believe in the paranormal. I believed in the paranormal ever since I was a little girl. I used to see my mom after she had died, and various houses that I lived in. I would take a picture, and I've gotten good pictures, not oh, there's an orb, which most of the time turns out to be dust or water or whatever. I've had full shadows over me before, which is kind of creepy actually. But one of my most memorable experiences, and actually one of the worst, was I lived in this apartment. It was just me and my kids. My boyfriend was living in his own place at this point in time. And my daughter, I believe she was almost 6. And my son was almost a year old. And it was just us. We had a 2-bedroom apartment. And when we first moved in there, I had gone in by myself to move certain things in. And before the electricity was even turned on, I had noticed that it was really cold in there. It was it felt like 60 degrees, even though the thermostat said it was 80. And this is a big deal because I live in Arizona, where it's in the summertime. I moved in April. April it starts getting pretty warm, so it was about 90 degrees outside. And it's a big deal because even in June it felt like 60 degrees with the air on 85, and in June it's 115 outside. So for it to feel that cold, it's really strange. You could kind of feel like a presence almost. Little things here and there would happen, like the cabinet doors in the kitchen would open. When you're taking a shower, the shower curtain would rustle, or even if you're not in the shower, if you're like when I was brushing my teeth a few times, the shower curtain would rustle like someone was in there. Also, the lights, I would turn the light on, and as soon as I walked into the room that I turned the light on, it would turn off. Or vice versa. I'd walk out of a room, turn it off, and then as I'm walking out, the light would turn on. And it was really funny because I actually had kind of a counselor come over one day, and the kitchen light was off. She was sitting at the dining table with me. We were talking, and as we're sitting there in the middle of our conversation, the kitchen light turned on. And it was me and her at the table, and my friend Brandy was playing on her phone in the living room. And she looks behind her, and she's like, "That was kind of creepy. It's a ghost." She was joking, "It's a ghost." I was like, "Yeah, it's funny you say that." So she kind of played it off, but I started noticing that it obviously wants a lot of attention lately. So then it got really bad when my daughter, who had never been afraid of the dark before, she refused to sleep in her room. And it's just weird for me because she's never afraid of anything like that. She's not afraid of the dark. She's not afraid to sleep alone, which even now, even after all that, she doesn't ask to sleep with me anymore. Only when we're in that place, which was really weird. But anyway, so I finally asked her, why you're so afraid to sleep in your room and by yourself. And she told me, well, there's a man in my room, and he stands in the corner and stares at me, and he's just like a dark figure. You can't see anything on his face except for his eye. He looks like a shadow. If I were to stand beneath shadows, you can see my face, but you can't really see too many good features. It's just so anyway, so she could see his eyes. She said he always looked angry at her, angry. So I told her, well, if you see him again, you need to tell him this is my room and you need to leave. And don't be afraid, because when you're afraid, you are more susceptible to them, and they kind of get stronger because they know they can scare you. So I always tell my friends, family, whoever, anybody that's having, paranormal experiences to just not be afraid. Don't really respond to it. Unless it's like seriously crazy stuff, I ignore it. So anyway, then one night I kind of got the urge to go lay with her. I don't know why. I just wanted to go to her room and lay down with her. I felt like I had to. So I woke up. It was like, I think 1 a.m. Went into her room, laid down next to her, and anybody who knows me, it takes me forever to fall asleep. Like, I will literally have to lay in my bed with the lights off for probably a good hour or two before I can fall asleep. It takes me a long time to fall asleep. So I go into her room, I lay down. As soon as my head hit that pillow, I instantly fell asleep. And not only did I fall asleep, but I went into a dream. And my dream was this little girl and a little boy at the foot of the bed, and they were crying, trying to get on the bed, but there was no room. And they were kind of like screaming, trying to get on, looking behind them like, no. So I woke up, looked down at my feet. Of course, there's nothing there. And I just like didn't want to ignore it. So I moved my legs over. And I looked at my daughter. She's still sleeping. So I laid back down, instantly fell asleep again, back into another dream. And it was the little girl and the little boy sitting behind me, like under the covers, like hiding. And then in my dream, I look over into the corner and I see the man that my daughter's talking about. And he's just angry. Like, you can feel like hatred leaking off of him. It was a really intense, scary feeling. And I was just like, okay. So the next day I asked my daughter, I was like, so this man that you see, what does he look like? She described him as the man that I saw. Then I asked her about the 2 kids that she, will sometimes talk about. And she described in detail the little girl, her name, what was her name? I can't even think about it right now. Elisa and Patty. And Elisa was a little girl about Tori's age, about probably 6 or 7. And she had like hair down to here, and it was kind of wavy, blonde hair. And she had a pink dress on. And then Patty, her brother, I guess his name was Patrick. He, was like 4 years old. He had brownish blonde curly hair. And then a t-shirt and shorts. So we kind of just left it at that. I didn't want to freak her out and tell her, oh, I'm seeing it too. So I just told her, okay, well, I was just curious. So the next day, my friend she came over while the kids were in school. And I told her everything that was going on. Now, she believes in the paranormal too, but she is one of those people who, if you tell her about your experiences, she's not going to believe it unless, well, she won't believe it like wholeheartedly. She's not going to be like, oh, you're a liar. She's just going to be like, oh, okay, that's interesting, But unless she actually experiences something, she's not really going to believe everything that you say. She'll be like, oh, well, that could have been, the wind, or, your house could be haunted, but there's probably other logical explanations. Which is fine. That's actually a good thing, because then you're not instantly jumping to ghost every time something happens. The wind blows your paper across the table. So, so that day we're sitting in my living room. It's freezing cold inside. The air's not even on. And I grabbed my phone that has a recorder on it, and I said, I've been watching these shows like Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters, stuff like that. And I said they always use their recording devices to get EVPs. I said, let's try and see if there's really something here. So she's like, okay, why not, whatever. So I turned on my recorder and I said, is there anyone here right now? If there is, say something. And I held out the recorder and I was just like, held it out for 30 seconds, turned it off. When we played it back, you hear us talking, or me saying that. Remember, it's just us 2 girls. We hear a man, plain as day, say, it gets cold in here. Funny thing that he said it gets cold in here, because it is constantly freezing in that house. So we kind of, it was pretty awesome for me. She was kind of freaked out about it. And uh, I just kind of was like, you know, that's awesome. Let's try it with something else. So we ended up getting an actual paranormal investigator come into our house. And he is a skeptic as well. It takes a lot to convince him that your house is haunted. He comes into our house, and he was taking pictures. He got some interesting orb-like things floating around. They were bright green and glowing. And they seemed to follow us around. They were always in different places, but they were like different shapes, different sizes. Sometimes they were more glowy, and sometimes they weren't as glowing, like they were almost barely there. Excuse me. But then he was sitting in the dining room, and from the dining room, you can look down the hallway and see my bedroom, and my closet is right next to the door into my bedroom. And he had looked in there, taken a picture, closed it all the way, like it latched shut. And then he takes a picture down the hallway, and he like asked me, I was sitting in the living room, he's like, "Did you open your closet door?" And I was like, "No, I didn't, you know, you closed it and I walked out in front of you, so how could I open it?" So he's like, "That's interesting then." So I was like, "What?" And we look at the picture, and it's like halfway open, but when we looked at it, we turned the light on and looked, it's completely open. So he had taken the picture while it was opening. So we go over there, and we're checking to see if it could just swing open. Maybe it didn't latch all the way, whatever. But the carpet's kind of thick there, and it'll get stuck. You have to pull it all the way open. Otherwise, it'll get stuck after about this far open. So he's like, "Okay, well, let's see," you know, he's like, "Can you do that again?" So he opens it just a little bit, you know, just in case it really did, you know, it wasn't latched or whatever. And nothing happened. Then as we're leaving again, he had left it in the same position. You hear it close. And I'm like, "That's interesting, you know, whatever." Well, then it eventually like turned into us seeing full apparitions. We got a few interesting EVPs. There was like an evil entity. I don't know if it probably wasn't a demon, because it could have done a lot more, but I don't know. It was just like an evil being, like someone who was not a good person when they were alive. Then there was the man and the two children. And the man seemed to have a thing for me. He would always say my name. He would whisper, "Jessica," you know, and I could feel like he would touch my shoulder when he whispered the name or whatever. And the little girl and little boy obviously were just trying to get home. So we ended up doing a cleansing, got rid of the evil spirit, and I told the other ones, "If you want to stay here, that's fine, but you have to quit freaking out my kids." But, and the EVPs, you know, I know it's hard to believe stuff like this. I have those EVPs on our website. I actually started a paranormal investigation group with my friend because of those experiences. So if you want to hear those EVPs, the website is www.mesaphenomenon.webs.com. And or you can look at facebook.com/Mesa Paranormal Group. But I have EVPs. We have those photos. The one of me sitting down, and there's a black shadow over me. You can clearly see a head, a torso, arms, you know, the midsection down towards the legs, and it's like leaning over me. So there's some interesting photos and EVPs. But the most crazy thing that happened there was we had been spending the night at my friend's house, and we needed clothes for my son and my daughter. So my daughter went with me to our place, and I told her, you know, go to your room and get some clothes, get your toys, whatever you want to take. I had opened the refrigerator, and when you open the fridge, it kind of blocks out the hallway. You can't see. And I leaned in to grab some food to take with us, And when I stood back up, there was my daughter standing right next to me, or at least I thought it was my daughter. Plain as day, it wasn't like I thought I saw her and then she wasn't there. She was standing next to me. And I said, you know, what are you doing? I told you to get your clothes. And she's like, Mommy, I don't want to leave. Can we stay here tonight? And I said, you know, I thought you were too scared to stay. And that was the whole point of us going to Brandy's and coming back here. She said, please, please, can we just stay here? I don't want to go. I want to stay here. I said, okay, I'm going to have to call Brandy and go get our son and everything, and then we can come back. She's like, okay. And then I leaned back to put the food back in, and when I close the refrigerator, here comes my daughter walking down the hallway towards me with all her toys and clothes. And I'm like, what are you doing? You just told me that you want to go, or that you want to stay here. And she got this look of horror on her face. She's like, I don't want to stay here. Please don't make me stay here. I was like, you're the one who just told me that. She's like, no, I didn't. I was getting my toys and my clothes. And she showed me her bag that she had packed with clothes and toys. So I was kind of freaked out. I was like, okay, let's go. Grab my clothes, shut the door. As we were driving away, I looked back and the lights turned on inside the apartment. I was like, oh my gosh, we need to get out of here. So we went back to my friend's house and I told her what happened, and she started freaking out, and she's like, you know, sometimes I guess they can copy your voice or even your features and look like you, which is beyond creepy for me. So yeah, that freaked me out. We eventually moved out. Things weren't too bad there after a while, after we did the cleansing and everything, but it just wasn't a good place because my kids were still kind of freaked out about it. But we're in a new place now. No ghosts, no nothing. We like it. But anyway, those are my experiences. And if you want to hear Glintzy's, go to her YouTube channel and look up The Ghost in My House. Hers is a very interesting story as well. So, oh, and also, can you tell me yours? I'm very interested in the paranormal. You know, tell me your stories, your experiences, you know, or if you don't believe in it, you can ask me questions. I'm not the most professional, you know, I haven't been doing this for years, but I do have some insights to it. And if you want to know about the website, I will put it down. I will put it on my channel, and I'll also put it in the description of this video. So feel free to visit that. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Bye.